And welcome back. Well, psychologists say that they've done new research that proves our brains are wired to see the glass is half empty. We focus on the negative, which I think is a little shocking. So how can we shift our thinking to be more half full?
Yeah, Dr. John Duffy is a clinical psychologist, best-selling author, and national speaker on kids, parenting, relationships, and family. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
This is a good topic, isn't it? Because I bet every day you see people, and everybody's probably complaining.
Yeah.
Negative.
Yep.
Seeing the glass is half empty.
Absolutely.
Real downer. Dark clouds hanging over their heads.
Debbie Downers.
And I think we get puzzled, like, why do I think this way, right? Because, but it's really kind of this primitive preemptive strike. There was a time thousands of years ago where we needed to think negatively and think worst case scenario in order to survive, right?
Gotcha.
So that's part of it. Now it's kind of like, well, I don't want to be disappointed, so I'll consider the worst case scenario. But we get in these ruts of negative thinking that are really, really hard to get out of, and it becomes our default, and positive thoughts are now the outside, not the norm at all. And we've got to shift that, you know, and it's not that difficult to do, but it requires some intention.
So did I hear you correctly that is there any benefit to expecting the worst and having good things happen to you? I mean, is there any benefit to that way of thinking, or is it really detrimental to our well-being?
This day and age, by and large, it's detrimental to our well-being. A lot of us have this default negative thinking, often about ourselves, right? You know, this kind of I'm not good enough thinking.
Right.
And that is, and the research that you guys cite and the research I've been looking at lately really says that the more we think positively about ourselves, our world, the future, the more emotionally and mentally healthy and physically healthy we are. The
Doesn't
less
it help our
stressed we
body
are.
heal?
It does. It literally helps the body heal. Like
Yeah.
there is not much of a downside, and that's why in my field, positive psychology has been this movement for the better part of 10 years, because the more we think positively, the less likely we are to be in my office, for example.
Right,
Yeah.
and I've read too in terms of parenting, it's much better to parent your kids from a position of, I know your potential, I know you're a good person, I know you're becoming the person that I see you're capable of becoming, rather than, oh, you just do this and you know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Why is it though that it is so easy for us to go from good positive thinking to bad, but
Yeah.
it's so hard for us if we were feeling negative, feeling bad,
Yeah.
seeing things glass half empty, to
Yeah.
go to something positive?
Because the negative is such our fallback. It's such what we're used to that in order to get to positive thinking, we have to be tenacious about it, because our minds are used to thinking a certain way, right? So we have to identify our negative thoughts. We have to reframe our negative thoughts. We have to replace our negative thoughts with something more positive. And we have to be pretty insidious and tenacious about maintaining positive thinking, and then that becomes our habit, and we start to manifest positive things in our lives, and we realize, okay, this can be my new default, and there is no horrible downside to it, and we have to convince ourselves of that over time.
Do you think the more bad thoughts we think, the more bad things happen to us?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people who are big into The Secret and different things like that, and think the more, you know, it kind of begets more bad.
Yeah, you put things out into the universe
And that's
how
what
they
comes
come back
to you.
to you.
I don't know if on a psychological level there's any proof to any of that, but if you believe in that, even on a level of just the way our thoughts work.
Well, some people can say The Secret like goes a little too far, and
Yeah.
you can, but there's no doubt that, you know, the law of attraction kind of works. Like, you know, the more we think positively, and the more we allow ourselves to think positively about ourselves, the more we're likely to manifest positive things in our lives.
You expect good may happen.
Yeah, exactly. And right, the more you think about the good things happening, the more likely they are to happen. Right.
Can you give us an example so people can understand it? Because I think this positive negative thing is something a lot of people are in touch with.
Yeah.
But maybe even as it relates to reframing your thoughts as an example so that people can learn from it.
One of my favorite examples of this is most of our negative thinking, if you really pare it down, is about ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough in some way, right?
The Stuart Smalley, standing in the mirror, gosh darn it, people like me.
Exactly. And the thing I hear most is I'm not thin enough, right?
Yeah.
So the replacement thought can be something like, I am strong, I'm healthy, and I'm absolutely thin enough. Even if you don't completely believe that, if you decide to, I'm going to think that way, I'm going to work with that thought, then you start to, you're starting from a solid foundation that's positive, and then you invite that positive movement, right? Then you can say, well, I'd like to lose a few pounds, so I'm more likely to diet and exercise and manifest something positive because I'm thinking positively about myself. Whereas if you're still holding on to I'm not good enough, the likelihood that you're going to act on your own behalf is infinitesimal. It's not going to happen.
So truly, our thoughts do lead to actions.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. You know, the most widely respected therapy is called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Big
really
fan.
very right, and it works, and it is exactly what it says it is. We're going to look at the way you think and the behaviors that result from the way you think, and we may have to change the way you think in order for the behaviors to be more adaptive, right?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you know we've talked about cognitive behavioral therapy before. Tiff and I have too, and as a treatment for anxiety.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things I learned is that anxiety is actually an error in thinking.
Yes.
And if you can change the way you think about things, you can actually eliminate or reduce anxiety significantly.
Anxiety, depression, stress, almost any maladaptive thinking in your life. But anxiety is absolutely an error in thinking. And if you can identify that error, and you have to hang on to that identification. It can't be just like one time, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be as tenacious as the negative thinking was in getting in your mind in the first place. But you can beat anxiety that way. That's the way to beat anxiety.
Yeah, because we know most fears, most worries are irrational. Most of them don't actually happen, and we spend all this energy negatively being concerned with it. Let's talk a little bit about how to be more positive, how to change these things in your life. One thing we talk about a lot is meditation, is gratitude.
Yes.
Do those things truly matter?
Yeah, so I started my day today, and I just thought, okay, I'll test this out. Not that I do this every day, but I thought I'll, you know, in my drive here, I was thinking like in terms of gratitude. And if you do that at the beginning and the end of your day, you set this tone where it's positive and you're not thinking about what's missing in your life. You're thinking about what's abundant in your life, right? Like, I'm grateful for this about myself, my family. I'm grateful that my body works, you know, like the things like that.
I'm grateful to be on the yellow couch with Molly and Tiffany.
Oh,
It feels good. I'm
Right?
behind.
couldn't feel better, right? I mean, it's the greatest thing.
It's true. If you haven't experienced it, I'm sorry.
Right, but is that something, so let's say you did it today, you admitted it's not something you maybe do every day.
Right.
How does it change us when we implement those things?
We look at almost everything that happens in our day through a slightly different lens. And the more we do it, the more that lens shifts. And there's a couple other things we can do. If we're just kind to somebody, we know that that has benefits beyond just the act, right? If we consider our thinking over the course of the day and we realize, oh, I'm thinking like really like negative, dark thoughts. There's no need for this. There's really nothing horrible happening here. So I'm going to shift that to something positive. And people often ask me, well, how do I do that? And often I say, flip it on its head, go 180 degrees the other direction, and, you know, absolutely think the opposite.
Like,
Even if
this
you're
is going to
forcing
be the
matter.
worst day of my life because I have finals and I haven't studied enough.
And shift that to, this is going to be great. This is going to be effortless, seamless, and amazing for me.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not naive to think that we can make ourselves more positive.
I get why during skeptical times we feel like this is naive,
Yes.
but I can tell you from like a quarter century of practice, this is the only thing that works in terms of shifting our mindsets. Yeah.
I
love
like
it.
that. That's good stuff. People can listen to your podcasts if they go to drjohnduffy.com. Your podcasts are called Undo Anxiety. It's great to have a listen, cover a variety of great topics when you chat with people. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Always love it.